Now, first things first. You must be aware of what has happened yesterday in Israel and Hezbollah. Now, Hezbollah, you should be aware where Hezbollah is. Hezbollah is basically a so-called terrorist organization which operates from Lebanon. Now, now what has happened is that in the last few years, Lebanon, all these Hezbollah fighters have been told by their military heads not to carry mobile phones. Now, why not to carry mobile phones is because of the fact that mobile phones can be tracked, and because mobile phones can be tracked, therefore not to use them. Now, instead they were using pagers. So you might not know that before mobile phones we used to have pagers which used to relay all the information in form of text. So think of a device which will only show you some characteristics of text. So that was early 90s that we or mid 90s or late 90s that we saw something like this. Now what has happened is that all the pages that were a lot of pages that were involved in with Hezbollah fighters, all of them exploded at one point of time. So which has led to killing of some people but injuring 2500 people. So this is a major thing. And how that has happened is given on the explain page. Now let me take you to the explain page to basically show you that how that has happened. Yeah. So if you see this, you will see exploding pages in Lebanon supply chain tampering the prime suspect. Now what has happened is that they've probably put some amount of trace RDX in the cell phone, or use some kind of device to detonate all these people. Now what has happened here is that there was some kind of hack. The early speculation was there was some kind of hack which resulted in overheating, but then overheating probably would be very difficult. So what is being suggested is that the Israeli forces might have infiltrated the supply chain and lined each of these devices with military grade explosive. So two things can happen. One is overheating, but overheating of all the say 2500 or 3000 of these devices will be very difficult. Therefore, what is the other suspect is that they would have infiltrated the supply chain. They would have preloaded all the RDX or whatever the explosive material is into the pager, and then once the devices were programmed, then they could explode. So this is what has happened, and Israel and Hezbollah have been on a war front for a very long time, and in fact since 2006 they've been in a war. The last war that they had together was in 2006. So this is the context in which this news is there. Then let's go back to the front page. Uh, there's nothing new on the front page. Then Atishi becomes the new CM of Delhi, and she says that the sole aim is to make Kejriwal CM again. Now again a political stunt that is happening in Delhi. She happens to be one of the youngest chief ministers that Delhi has got. Apart from the fact that both her parents are from Delhi University, they were professors of history in Ramjas College. Now, so this is majorly a political news. She's already burdened with 13 departments as her ministry portfolio, and now she will be taking care of this as well. But at the same point of time, the task is quite cut out. Now let's read this article, because most of you are from Delhi. You should be aware of what is happening in Delhi. Now the task is still cut out, and which is being mentioned in this particular article. Delhi deserves a functioning government. AAP should turn its attention from Kejriwal's Agni Pariksha to what city needs. Now, Unfortunately, what has happened is that the governance of Delhi has taken a toll because of this entire liquor saga. Now, how it has taken the toll on governance is that how Aam Aadmi Party came to power in Delhi with such resounding numbers was because of the kind of effort that they had put in both schools as well as in mohalla clinics. So they backed it up with governance, and they won the elections on the basis of good governance. But in the last few months, especially after 2022, since it controls the MCD after 2022, not much has happened. They have been fighting this war against the center, whether it comes to the powers of the LG or the liquor scam. So they have been at loggerheads with the center, and all their energy is being consumed there. And therefore we see that whether it's the breeding of mosquitoes, spread of dengue, or waterlogging issues, all these issues are basically right now the city is grappling with all these issues, and these are the issues that needs to be resolved first before going for trial by fire and asking for public's mandate to be the CM again. So this is something that needs to be done in terms of governance. Then we have another article on the front page. Where is this? Shah says the caste census soon, and on caste wait for some announcement. So both the caste census and the caste census, the census and the caste census both will be announced very soon, and within the 100 days, the Home Minister has said that we will have the census for the entire country as well. We'll start the process of the census. Another important news here is steady growth in West, South states, decline in Bengal. Now, there is this article that has been written by Sanjeev Sanyal, who's member of the Prime Minister Advisory Council, and Akansha Arora. Now, what this article says is that they have compared the performance of Indian states across the last 6 decades, from 1960s till 2023-24. They are seeing the performance, and what they have done is basically they have seen the the per capita state GSDP versus the per capita country's GSDP. So the denominator that they have taken is the per capita GDP of the country, and the numerator that they have taken is that the per capita GSDP of that particular state. And what is that ratio? So if the ratio is improving, that means the share of that particular state in national importance and in national importance and in terms of economic performance has been preserved or has increased. And if it has gone down, that means the state has not done well. So what we see from this data is that the share of in 1960s, West Bengal was the third largest state in India in terms of per capita income. At 10% of the national per capita income, it has reduced to 5.6%. So this paper, which is relative economic performance of Indian states, basically talks about that. And the per capita income has remained highest for Delhi, Telangana, Karnataka, Haryana, and lowest in Bihar. So this is what the paper says, and there's an extensive article on this as well here, which shows that by how much each particular state has increased. And if you see the richest states that India have, or which have the highest level above the national level of per capita, and which will also show you why these places are magnets. For example, if you see the per capita income of Delhi, the per capita income of Delhi is 250%, which is 2.5 times more than the national average, and it was 218 in national in 1960s as well. Now some states have been laggards. For example, you see the case of Odisha, but at the same point of time, there are some states which have had extreme progressiveness. For example, smaller states like Sikkim and Odisha registered remarkable improvements. Sikkim has surged from 93% of national average to 319, and same is the case with Goa, from 144 to almost 300. So these are what we have seen, and this is how they have calculated all of this. But this also goes to show that there are certain states in the south which are now demanding 50% of revenues from the finance commission. So basically what they're saying is that they're contributing a lot to to the national coffers, and they're not getting a similar amount from the finance commission. So in all of that this thing noise, this report has come, which will also guide the fiscal federalism norms. Now what are these fiscal federalism norms? You should be aware about that what does finance commission do? Finance commission's work is to basically collate all the money that is being collected by the center. So when we'll do finance commission in the optional as well, we'll discuss this. But think of it as whatever money that the center is getting from taxes goes into a piggy bank, and from that piggy bank the money will be distributed by the finance commission, that how much money will the states keep and how much money will the center keep. So this is the work which finance commission does, and this work is done on the basis of how much which state will take will is determined on the basis of the per capita GSDP. What there have been a lot of allegations by the southern states that we contribute a lot to the finance commission or to the central this thing taxes, but we don't get that money in return. So this is one of the main problems in central and state finances. Then apart from that, let's move on to yeah, you can read this news. Kuno cheetahs to be set free soon. 24 lakh earmark for live bait. Now we have already read this. The other news that you need to read is fertilizer cap and cut. Now this is the news that we did yesterday, which was from day before yesterday actually. Now what has happened in this particular this thing is that earlier we had this dilemma of food versus fuel, whereby we were talking about this dilemma that how much of our food grains are being used to produce fuel and biofuels. For example, sugar and maize and corn, all of these go into as stock for biofuel production. Now we have a new kind of dilemma, which is food versus cars, which we had discussed. Now what has happened is that you have these lithium batteries that go into EV vehicles, and anything which is electronic needs lithium batteries because of their efficiency of usage. Now there are three four types of lithium batteries. One of the best types of lithium batteries is which use phosphate salt or phosphoric acid. Now phosphoric acid as a source produces one of the best this thing electric vehicle batteries, replacing the other ones which use nickel, manganese, cobalt and aluminium. So what has happened is that most of the EV vehicles and most of the lithium ion battery producers, what they have started doing is they have started using this sulfuric acid and basically phosphate, which is derived from this sulfuric acid. Now the alternative to all of this is that all of this used to go to, because we don't produce any of this in our country, we import all this phosphoric acid from the ore deposits of Morocco, China, Egypt and Tunisia. So basically all these iron phosphate batteries are being the raw material is being imported from these countries. And the earlier what was happening was we were still importing these phosphate ores, but we were using them for producing DAP, diammonium phosphate. Now diammonium phosphate is basically a fertilizer which is used in Indian agriculture. There are three main types of agricultural fertilizers that we use. One is urea, the other is phosphate, which is through DAP, and the third, if you see this, the other is DAP, which uses 46% of phosphate, and muriate of potash, which is also called as MOP, which is 60% potassium. Now, so basically, what we are doing is we are turning our fertilizers, and we are reutilizing that the raw material which will go into fertilizer. We are now using it for the production of cars and EV vehicles. So therefore, this food versus car dilemma that has come up. Now the other thing is that the farmer should also be weaned away from these application of these complexes, and weaned away from these individual high consumption fertilizers to complex fertilizers, and also to those fertilizers which are water soluble and which use less of these nutrients. So therefore, this presents us with an opportunity that how we can reduce our fertilizer use, and we can improve the sustainability of Indian agriculture through more crop per drop, and also more crop per kg of nutrients. So read this article. Now the next article is reaping the silver dividend. Now, what is this reaping the silver dividend? Now, we've all heard about the new scheme that has been launched, or the extension of the already existing scheme, Ayushman Bharat Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana. Now, what it does, it's an insurance scheme for up to 5 lakh rupees for everyone who is above 70 years. Now, what this article says is that yes, it is necessary to improve the access to insurance and access to healthcare for elderly, but the step that has been taken by the government of India is not an adequate step, and it explains why. Now, first of all, India has, the government claims that it will benefit around 4.5 crore families, and this article basically tries to go into the numbers of how many families it will help and how much money that it would be required for that. Now, it does that analysis, and it says that anyone who is above the age of 63.5 is going to go for hospitalization, and the hospitalization is further going to increase in the 70s and the 80s. And for a country where 92% of the workforce is in the informal sector, and there is hardly any coverage of the elderly people under any insurance scheme, therefore we needed this scheme. And the out of pocket expenditure is quite huge when it comes to this age group. The out of pocket expenditure for the entire family has been able to be was reduced through the Ayushman Bharat scheme. And as I told you, that earlier it used to be around 66% to 72%. Now it has reduced to somewhere around 50%, and that is because of the Ayushman Bharat scheme that is there. But much more is needed. Why much more is needed? Because the government has allocated around 3,400 crore rupees for the this extension. Now the preliminary estimates basically suggest that there are around 5.6 crore households which are eligible for this scheme. Now, apart from in all of that, in all of that, there are families which actually or individuals which are not covered under this scheme is being calculated. So if you see, by deducting the number of individuals covered by employer based public health insurance, the expected users account for 43.5 lakh families. Now if you require this expenditure of 32,000 rupees for hospitalization, that is on an average needed, then the scheme requires an additional of 14,000 crore rupees, and we have been allocated only 3,000 crore rupees, so which is 4 times less than what is required. Apart from that, there is another problem that is there. Now, the public insurance should be a complementary but not a substitute of government hospital care, because what is there is that most of the people who are admitted at this particular age are riddled with problems like cardiovascular, respiratory, and cancer, vector-borne diseases, and these are not to be treated in a single shot of treatment. So it is not like a cut on your arm that you go, you get hospitalized and you come back healthy. So they require long term care, and the Pradhan Mantri the Jan Arogya Yojana, like other insurance, cover only secondary and tertiary care when outpatient services account for 46% of total healthcare expenditure. So one of the major healthcare expenditure that is there is the outpatient care, and not the hospitalization care. So for example, once I so someone is having some kind of problem, that person will require at least 4 or 5 visits of OPD first, and then that person will require some kind of hospitalization. So that OPD is not covered under JY for this. It covers hospitalization, and it covers only secondary and tertiary conditions only. So the non-communicable diseases require multiple consultations with healthcare providers, have increased steadily in the recent times, and with improved primary and secondary preventive healthcare, considerable amount of pressure can be lifted from the tertiary and the curative healthcare. So this is something that we need to do. Apart from the fact that we need to increase our expenditure on health as well, public expenditure, the public healthcare expenditure has been woefully low in case of India. And what we can say, examples from countries like Canada, European models are all examples where have they almost have universal healthcare. And we need to invest more in our in our these universal systems for to promote healthy and active aging, to reap the silver dividend. Or silver dividend is because of the fact silver basically shows the silvering of the hair. So this is why this is called as silver dividend, or the direct and indirect economic and contributions made by older people. So good article. You should read this. Then the only article on the ideas page that I liked was Joe Biden's India story. Now, what is this Joe Biden's India story? Now, Joe Biden was not. I mean, the people from the Indian establishment were not hoping much from Joe Biden when it comes to India and US relationship. But most of them, including the columnists, were proved wrong because of the kind of policies that Joe Biden took. He not only took the policies of Trump further, and he deepened the relationship of India with that of US. And this started with the question at the end of 2020 whether Biden would persist with the three innovations under Trump. One was the military presence of in Afghanistan. Second was downgrading relationship with Pakistan, and third is confronting China's assertiveness. Now, what Biden had done was that it doubled on this particular narrative of Trump, and it removed the presence of U.S. military from Afghanistan, therefore leaving Pakistan high and dry. And apart from that, China has now been targeted on multiple fronts, and in fact, the tariffs have not just not just reduced; they have actually increased when it comes to the trade war that is there with US and China. Then you have this the other policy that has happened now. Before Biden came into power, Quad was just a term which was used in 2007 that was not effectively utilized. Now, what Biden had done was, Biden had made this into a summit level meeting, and because Biden was had made it into summit level meeting, everyone took it very seriously, and all these leaders now meet very often. In fact, the Prime Minister is going to meet Biden very soon on September 20 to 22nd, I guess, in New York, on the sidelines of Quad as well. So basically, he waked up Quad from coma, and then apart from that, he has also invested in other kinds of partnerships in Asia, which led to, so as I told you, elevation of Quad from to summit level in barely 2 months, and then expanding strategic partnership with India, announcement of AUKUS and other partners. Apart from that, we have had a very tumultuous relationship with China, and this has also been taken up by Biden as well. Then apart from that, in terms of technology, we have got more than what we were expecting. So with the ISET, the emerging the initiative on critical and emerging technologies, we have taken it to a new level because we have now expanded from cooperation to basically co-development and joint production of in areas like semiconductor and jet engine production. And all of this has happened between India and US, despite the fact that there have been a number of issues which both countries are facing simultaneously. For example, the support that India does to Russia when it comes to the Ukraine conflict, despite all of this and the kind of tariff issues that we face with US. So despite all of this, or the issue of Pannun, who was found in US, and the assassination plot. So despite all of these, we have done well in terms of our relationship with US. So you can read this particular article. Then one of the most important articles is waiting for a Fed cut. The key question is how much. Now, see, what has happened is that there is a highly anticipated meeting that has already begun on Tuesday, and for the first time since March of 2020, there has been now discussions on that whether there will be a rate cut, and whether there will be a 50 basis point rate cut or a 25 basis point rate cut that will be there. Now, there have been talks about, because the US economy is slowing down and the inflation has gone down in US, therefore there are talks about that there will be reduction in the borrowing cost in Federal Reserve, and the quantum of the cut is now going to be decided, whether it's going to be 50 basis point or 25 basis point. Now, what is important is this. First of all, their inflation has gone down, so they are able to do that. Now, the impact of Fed is that the Fed influences the employment and inflation by primarily using monetary tools and cost of credit. And basically, what they are going to do is, when the interest rate goes down, it is becomes cheaper for people to borrow, and if it is cheaper for people to borrow, they invest more and improve demand, and then basically the economic cycle improves. So this is what this is doing. Now, how does it impact India? The differences between US and US and other countries could widen, making India much more attractive. So if the US interest reduces and India's interest rate is high, so India's basically market has become much more attractive, and because we might get more flows, therefore our currency might even appreciate. So we need to see that as well. So that is one thing, that the lower rate signal by Fed would also mean higher impetus to US growth, which is a positive news for US as compared to China, which is reeling under this real estate crisis that is there, and it is also slowing down. So and apart from that, this will have an impact on currency markets. As I told you that if India is going to get a lot of funds, then India's own currency might appreciate. So this is something that has happened, and this also might have an impact on the upcoming RBI's policy, which is scheduled in October, early October. Then the other article that I want you to read is the JNK Reorganization Act 2019, which basically which has created vastly different structure, in which LG is appointed by the center, and what is the role of LG, and what is the new assembly of Union Territory of JNK like. So read about this, how JNK, Puducherry and Delhi are situated in terms of their powers, what are the powers of the assembly and the powers of JNK LG. So read about it, whether they will have equal powers or not. Finally, the other article that we have to deal with is goods export declined by 9% in August, trade deficit widens to $30 billion. Now, you should be aware about what is, first of all, to understand this article, you should be aware about what is this trade deficit and what is our exports. Now, what has happened is that we have our balance of payment. In balance of payment, one of the major items that we export, and you will be surprised by that, one of the major items that we export is petroleum products. Why petroleum products? Because we consume crude oil, but at the same point of time we process it, and then we sell this crude oil by refining it. So our exports have declined by 9% in August. It's because of the fact that the petroleum product pushes the goods exports goods to be at lower level, and the trade deficit has widened. Now, what is this trade deficit? Trade deficit is the difference between the merchandise exports and the merchandise imports. Basically, so to say, the difference between visible exports and visible imports. As compared to visible, there is something called invisible as well. For example, services export, or the unilateral transfers that are there, or you might have heard about net factor income from abroad. These are three sources which are invisible, which are not included in trade deficit. We are only talking about exports and imports of which goods which are visible, which are also called as mercantile goods. So this is what has happened. You can probably read this, but don't worry too much about these numbers, because these numbers are not very important for us. These numbers keep on changing. Then I think insurance buyers ignore. Yeah, that's about it, folks. Now we can continue with our discussion tomorrow, where we'll discuss tomorrow's newspaper. So thank you very much. I will see you tomorrow at 5:30, 5:40, folks, and we'll have only a half an hour session tomorrow, because I have another lecture at IIPA tomorrow for the Indian Statistical Service. Thank you very much. See you. Bye bye.